You're welcome to the Cruising is Life podcast. Whether you're a seasoned cruiser or just starting out, we have something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and get ready to set sail with us on the Cruising is Life podcast.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Cruising is Life podcast. We're back with our co-hosts Justin and Dimitri. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
We've got a kind of a different topic for this week. You know, we're kind of changing things up. It's going to be instead of like a news topic or just talking about a certain ship, certain class, reviews, whatever we've been doing in the past on a pretty regular basis. This week we're going to kind of share just like our own experiences and like favorite cruise stories, things that happened while we were on cruises, things like that. This idea kind of came up, we were thinking the other day, we were kind of, not that we were necessarily out of ideas for the podcast, but we were kind of thinking of ideas, and the thought came up like, all right, well, we've all collectively been on well over 100 cruises combined, I think, or at least getting close to it. So like, what better thing to do than just like share a bunch of random stories? Do what?
So there's got to be something for us to tell in there.
Right, exactly. We've got plenty of stories throughout all the years. Because fun fact, I'm hitting cruise number 50 this year in November on Oasis, which is nuts. So 50 alone for me is still crazy to wrap my head around. But how many have you guys been
on? Good question.
Yeah, I was going to say
I've been on exactly 30.
Exactly 30. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I'm in the high teens or low 20s.
Very nice.
Very nice.
I at this point I used to like always keep track as a kid, but now that I have like the little the Shipmate app on my phone, now I can actually easily.
That thing still exists.
I know.
Yeah,
I always go in and update it because like that's the only way I could really keep track of. One, I've got 8 cruises booked right now, so I don't know how I'm gonna keep track of all those. But and then all the other 40 something that I've been on up to this point, so it's it's a nice little app to have. But yeah, anyways. So we'll start with like, what's your favorite cruise that you guys have ever been on?
You want to go first, Dimitri? I got to think about that.
Sure.
They all run together, honestly. It's tough to pick.
For real.
I'd probably say it goes between Alaska and Europe. Alaska, we did a 7-day on the Joy a couple years back. And actually got to go to Skagway. A lot of ships don't stop there anymore, and that was one of my favorites.
Nice.
I mean, just the scenery there, it's completely different. Okay, you've done a gazillion Caribbean ones.
Right, exactly.
It was just great. And Europe, we did an 11-day on what was supposed to be Viva's inaugural sailing, but we got pushed to get away.
Oh,
and that was
right.
great. I mean, obviously, the first time going over there, but yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have to say that weekend cruise we did on Allure with everyone.
Oh, that was so much fun.
That was a lot of fun. Like, I know it was just like a short, like Bahamas, like basic cruise, but just like the group we had and whatever. That was either that or the Liberty, but I think the Allure just because of the ship. But yeah, that cruise was a lot of fun.
And news about her, though, that was nice little surprise this week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all the upgrades that they announced that are going to go to Allure weren't surprising. I think it was cool just to like actually get it confirmed, but yeah, I mean, they got some big plans for Allure, and it looks like she's going to be doing pretty well over the next year or so. I'd have to say, I really, though, actually the one that really sticks out to me is, I feel like Icon has its own reason for being one of my favorites because it was obviously the 4th ever sailing on a brand new ship of that magnitude. That would be like me saying, if I were to have sailed as a kid on the Oasis on like one of the first sailings, it probably would have been the same thing. But like that aside, because I feel like that has a little bit more of a moment or like a monumental like factor to it. But I gotta say, like, believe it or not, the Carnival Liberty, that cruise that we did, was actually that whole week was like one of the best weeks ever.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun.
Because like we ship spotted the day before because it was on that weird Sunday to Thursday itinerary, which
Right.
MSC does now. But we were actually thinking of doing the Breeze because what we did is that standby cruise, which we had the chance to go on the Breeze, but we opted out because there was a chance to go on Liberty, which is, you know, obviously a smaller ship, but we had a little bit better lineup and opportunities. I can't really figure out what my cat's doing here. But so we ended up doing a ship tour that Saturday on the Breeze that we ended up watching her in the Fantasy Leave, which is weird. It was only a 2-ship day.
Yeah, it was one of those where it was epic at the time, but she was just for spring break. She did 2 short cruises.
Right.
So she wasn't there the Saturday we were there, but
Yeah.
every other week she did 7 nights. But just for spring break, she did like a weird itinerary, like a short cruise or something.
Yeah, it was super weird. It was like, yeah, I remember that was like one of the last times we had Epic up until like this year.
Right.
But yeah, we did that ship tour. Then we ended up choosing not to sail on the Breeze that day because we had the opportunity to do the Liberty the next day. So we did the standby cruise still, but we ended up being able to finagle our way on for the quote unquote lunch tour.
Yeah.
And so we ended up getting to stay on the ship for the day. And then at 3:00 when they kicked us off saying, "Hey, your tour's over, time to go home," we walked back in, walked up to the counter and said, "Hi, our standby cruise, what's the update on that?" And they go, "We have one person that decided not to show up today." So we ran to the car at 3:00 in the afternoon, ran to the car, grabbed our suitcases, and got back on the ship.
Yep.
So
I think we were on the gangway when the muster drill started. And this
They
is
were
when they still did it in person. So, you know,
Yeah.
everyone was lined up in the area and we're walking on with our suitcases.
Yeah, for real. Like they were
the ones that were holding everything up.
Yeah.
they were sounding like the horns or something like that. I remember they were making the announcements like in the video. I have to go back and watch those because that was a fun vlog series.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most fun ones because yeah, we were literally walking up the gangway as they were doing all the muster stuff. And then even like in the video, we're putting our bags down inside the room for the first time, and like you can hear the alarm still going off. So we're like, "Oh my god, like we still gotta
Yeah.
get there." They're like, we're with those people that were probably holding up the muster drill, but like unintentionally because we were just getting on the ship because of being on that standby. So that was super super fun. And then like the lineup that weekend was really cool too. So we saw Oasis going out.
Yep.
Then we had the Mariner had just come over. 'Cause
Right.
It had been in Asia for like years up until that point. So they just brought it over. It was still out of Miami. So we had the Mariner, and then we had the Disney Dream with us in Nassau. Then the next day in Freeport, which Freeport's not really that great of a port, and to be
Yeah.
completely honest with you. But we saw what is now the Margaritaville Sea not Islander, the Paradise. Ooh, you know how much I love that one.
Very fancy.
We got to see that when it was still the Grand Bahamas line, you know, the Grand Classica. But then unexpectedly we had the Mariner show up when it was supposed to go to Coco Cay that day, but being that it was, you know, pretty early on in the days of, you know, Coco Cay renovation, they sent it over to Freeport. So we ended up unexpectedly getting to see the Mariner again.
Yep.
Got off the next day, drove down to Fort Lauderdale and stayed at Justin's parents' house. And the next day we got another ship tour on the Carnival Victory right before it went into dry dock. And
Like
then we
right
ship spotted.
before.
Yeah, that was like one of the last like few months it was supposed to be out. And like
Yeah.
we knew about it too. Like so we knew
That's why-
the ship was
That's
only
why we
limited
didn't
on
sail
time.
on. Right. That's why we didn't sail on Breeze, because we knew we were going to be able to do that tour on Friday.
Right, exactly. Like if it weren't for that, we probably would have gone on the Breeze that week.
Yeah, for a week.
Yeah.
That was a tough pass up. I'm not going to lie, but
That was very tough to pass because
it worked out. It was a big gamble there, but it worked out.
it really paid off. But but yeah, so it was one of the first, the last few months, like knowing and everything that the Victory is on its way out the door to become the Radiance, and then we ended up ship spotting later that day. So like and it was like a 6-ship day. We saw the freshly like that was one of the first few sailings after the Navigator got redone too.
Yeah, it was like
such a cool week.
Yeah, and we saw Mariner again. We saw Mariner and Navigator in Miami on the Victory tour.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw the Mariner 3 times within the span of a week.
Yeah,
and we saw a brand like the freshly renovated Navigator, and a few others. So that was such a fun cruise.
Yeah.
And it was just the U2 that were on it.
Yeah, it was just
it was just us two.
that was before we had
Little
ladies
date cruise.
Yeah, it was the little Pookie date cruise. That was before Justin got engaged.
We had we had just started. Oh yeah, it was on that cruise. We had just started dating like 2 weeks before that cruise. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that was.
And now look at us.
Yeah, that was a very fun time. Good times. That was forever ago too.
That was 2019, right? Like the spring break of 2019. Wow.
Yeah,
memories.
It's funny to say, but like literally the Carnival Liberty at the time too. It was like that was a really nice ship too. I loved it.
I did too. That was
one of my favorite Carnival ships I had been on. But it's funny to say, like, the Carnival Liberty was probably one of my favorite cruises. Like, it just like that whole week, really, like collectively. But that cruise itself was really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's other times like that, and then of course, you mentioned that we had the cruises with all the other guys, here in Canaveral with the Liberty of the Seas. That was just recent, and then we also had the Allure of the Seas. Allure was actually the first time we did a cruise on an Oasis class together, which is really cool.
Yes.
Now we're about to do Oasis coming up, but
I'm so excited for that.
That was always really fun because we're like the Oasis class nerds. Like
and we'll be with Allure in Coco, which would be really cool.
Oh, that is so cool.
The Rising Tide Bar Kings.
Yep, yes. That's us.
Yep. You think we should get the drink package on the Oasis?
I mean,
I'm about to purchase the drink package for Glory, anyways.
Oh God.
Well, while we're in the spirit, we might as well just try it. It'll be the holidays. It's allowed.
Exactly. I'm very much looking forward to the Glory cruise coming up, though, because like I was telling Justin earlier, I have a friend from high school that's coming with us. So it's gonna be a very fun time.
Oh, Ryan's coming?
No, not Ryan. It's another friend named Justin, ironically. But
I think I remember you telling me that. That's right.
Yeah, he's from Atlanta though. He's coming down. Him and his cousin, or him and somebody now, are coming down, and they're gonna come with us. Which I think check-in for that cruise is later this month.
Okay,
I think I have put it in my calendar when it popped up.
Gotcha.
It's been so long since I've done a Carnival check-in, so I have no idea what to expect.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, so Dimitri with Alaska, that was their favorite cruise. Me with the Carnival Liberty, that week was really, really fun. And like Justin said earlier, the Allure of the Seas cruise back in November, that was super fun. Any standout like memories, like whether it was a port and your favorite, like going into a port for the first time or anything like that?
I mean, I guess we can kind of separate it like Caribbean wise. What really surprised us or me was Puerto Plata last year when we went on Seascape. Oh, amazing. That port area, Tano Bay, blew me out of the park. Like, I did not expect that at all. Yeah, and then I'd probably say Aruba. I didn't expect it. I knew Aruba was nice, but we really liked Aruba. And a lot of ships also don't go here, but we stopped in Bonaire. And Bonaire was really nice.
I've been to Aruba and Curacao a few times, but I've never been to Bonaire. I want to do that.
Yeah, so
I've been to Aruba and Curacao twice, but not Bonaire.
I've been wanting to do one of the 8-day Southerns for a while now. It's been a while.
It's a good itinerary.
They do them on Vista and here in Canaveral, but it's just kind of tough to swing an entire week sometimes.
And speaking of Vista, why did Celebration do a whole bunch of 7 days all of a sudden instead of the 6 and 8s that it was on?
Good question.
Celebration.
Why did they switch that up for like 4 weeks?
I don't know, but Mardi Gras was the same way. It was super weird. I think.
Because I was like thinking, like when I was on Wonder, I'm like, why isn't? Or sorry, yeah, Mardi Gras. Why are we not here in port with them either on the first Sunday or the next Sunday?
Yeah, I noticed that. It's like one. It used to be every other weekend last year, but this year, I don't know if maybe Icon has something to do with it now. But yeah, it's not as frequently anymore because I tried to line it up because those Sundays the celebration was in Miami on those Saturdays, so I tried lining it up to where I could go down there at least once, which I did in June, but it was really weird how they did it this year with that scheduling on those 6 and 8s. It is cool that they have all the Vista class right now on the 6 and 8 night cruises though, out of Miami, Port Canaveral, Long Beach, things like that. Which,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, I think those are definitely good ships to do that with, though.
I think so too. They're kind of like that in between, like the Dream class. They're getting up on their age, but the Vista class aren't. I mean, those are still, Vista's the oldest one, and it's only 8. So, which is crazy to think that's 8 years old, but it's really not that old of a ship. And the same Panorama's brand new still, essentially. I mean, that came out at the end of 2019 to where it only had like 3 or 4 sailings. Yeah, exactly. That only had like maybe a month, maybe 2 months worth of sailings before, the COVID shutdown. To where really being a 2019 ship, it might as well have been a 2020, new build.
True.
So those ships kind of have like a really cool spot in the fleet right now. But I think the 6 and 8s are really good for those because those are really nice ships.
Yeah. Back to what I was saying. I mean, all the ports in Alaska were great. Like I said, Skagway. A lot of ships obviously don't stop there because of the rocks and stuff. We really enjoyed it there. Europe. I mean, obviously, Santorini and all that.
And
we enjoyed
Brady for the
Istanbul.
super chat.
We love you, Brady.
The $6.90 super chat says funding the drink package for Oasis. Go Pookies.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Brady.
This is the kind of support. This is the kind of support we need these days.
This is the kind of.
But yes, what were you saying, Dimitri?
Istanbul kind of stood out to us as not like a place that we would want to go back. So I mean, I guess I'll kind of throw that in there. We just did not feel safe there. But
my mom felt the same way when we went in 2007. So I guess nothing's changed.
Yep. Nothing has changed.
Interesting.
So yeah,
I still have never been over to Europe.
Loser.
Come on, man.
I need to. I really need to. I've always been wanting to. It's not. I feel like there's so many other things on my list, but Europe, I'll get there eventually.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, I'll get there eventually, I guess. That's one way to look at it. Plus, all these short cruises always just kind of get in the way at this point. We do that to ourselves, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I want to go up to like New York and the DC area, but I don't have any time or the money. Too many cruises.
Oh, we should have gotten Jerry on this week for an Emerald Princess review.
Did he ever make it back? Didn't he fly into that hurricane? Is he?
Oh, yeah, we're
he okay?
Have we heard from him? We've heard from him. He's okay.
Where are you at?
Jerry, all right?
Never really heard
He
from
floated
him.
back on his drone. The plane went down and he used his drone to fly.
Of course.
You just see him holding on to, just like kind of helicoptering in.
Like
so
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, but with a drone.
That would be hilarious.
That would be.
That would have been.
I think another really fun cruise that we did, or cruise like memory, was the Mariner cruise that we did too. It just came up into my mind, but that Mariner cruise is super fun.
That was a good cruise to go on after the shutdown. That was a lot of good things happened that cruise. That was
Oh
fun.
no.
We
Oh.
we booked 3 more cruises after that, or during that cruise.
Yeah, we got a little carried away.
We got very.
Just
It was our first cruise back from COVID. We went crazy with it.
Yeah,
But
it was fun.
That was such a really like unique cruise too. Just being right in the middle of COVID, like all the mask mandates, all the vaccination BS, and everything like that. But the ship was at like they were sailing usually at 50%, but we were probably below 50% capacity.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that big, Voyager class ship was probably maybe 1,000 people on it, I would say.
Wow.
If that.
if that. Yeah,
If that.
it
I mean,
might have been closer to like 800.
Justin and I would walk down the entire promenade in the middle of like the peak times, and we maybe passed like
Empty.
2 people, maybe
Empty,
2
yeah.
people.
It was amazing. It was
was such a cool
and this was like a few months after it started. When it first started, the capacity was even lower than what we had.
Insane.
So like I can't even imagine
got
like those
spoiled.
first few cruises on Freedom. Like there was like 300 people on it on a ship that can
Yeah.
hold about 4,000.
Yeah. It's got to be probably one of like the craziest cruise. We definitely got spoiled that weekend just for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like we went on Independence a couple months later, and the occupancy was definitely up a little bit more. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was quite 100%, but it was definitely a lot more full, and I was like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, and then even when I went on Oasis the following month, it felt like it was even more capacity.
Yeah,
So yeah, it went up pretty quick, but that Mariner cruise, we hit it just right.
that was so much fun. That was so cool. We did like the flow rider, all the water side. Like we did everything that cruise too. I think being our first cruise back after the long COVID shutdown, we really had a good time that cruise, just to enjoy the experience for the first time in so long.
Yeah, and we saw what 14 other ships that one night on the way back to
That
Canaveral,
one
something like
single
that.
night, that was insane.
That was
We literally
wild.
came out of dinner from Playmakers that one night, and we were like, "Oh my God, there's ships everywhere."
Everywhere
just
you looked,
anchored.
there was Carnival ships, Princess ships, Holland America ships, other Royal Caribbean ships. It was.
You name
Yeah,
it,
I
they were
couldn't
there.
believe it. We passed
Like-
one of the Disney ships later in the day. It was crazy.
Like not even exaggerating. Like when we say that we saw 14 ships, we counted 14 ships.
Yeah.
That one night.
It was when most of them were still just at like the anchorage points before they started cruising. So they were all
when
just
we left Canaveral that day, and the Disney Fantasy was just sitting there anchored, like right outside the channel.
yeah.
That was really cool. That was a very
Rocket
unique
missile
cruise.
launch too that day.
Yeah, I don't know what that was that launched, but
We were being attacked by something, man. That was crazy.
we just see this giant bright streak. We're like, that's not coming from the Space Center.
No, it was not. It was coming from the ocean.
Yeah,
Freaking
the
nuclear
what
submarine out there.
It was
Something
Nemo
was-
getting revenge on the Barracuda.
something.
What?
I said it was Nemo getting revenge on the Barracuda that ate his mom.
For real. I
Oh
don't
my
blame him.
God.
I don't blame him, man.
Oh man, I'm definitely like all these like really fun cruises that we've done. I'm very much looking forward to our Joy cruise over the next.
Oh, the Pookie
'cause
getaway.
all 3 of us are going. The Pookie getaway for an entire week too.
Oh boy.
That would be
The crazy thing is, like all these really fun cruises that we've done, Justin and I have never done a 7-night together either. But you all are being blessed. The very beginning of February next year, we're getting the Carnival Venezia vlogs.
Oh yeah,
for an
that's right.
entire
I forgot.
week. The
I kept
entire
thinking like, oh,
week.
wait 2 years for that. No, it's in a few months.
We've got not one 7-day cruise together, but 2 7-day cruises together next year. We
Ooh.
got 2. We're going Star of the Seas as well, but
suspenseful.
Oh my God. So we have 3 then.
yeah, we have 3 booked right now.
3 7-night cruises. I'm sick.
Oh, that's gonna be so much fun. But yeah. Anyway, I feel like we got sidetracked with the Mariner. I think my attention just like refocused there for a minute. But,
Fantasy,
Back to zero.
But yeah, Dimitri was talking about some of like the European ports and things like that. Justin, was there any port that you know like experienced for the first time like really stood out or like really memorable or anything like that?
It's a good question.
The mermaids and Coco Cay.
Yes, absolutely amazing.
They don't put them in those brochures, but let me tell you, they're there, and they are ready to play.
I know I was drinking all weekend, but I swear I saw them.
If there wasn't the picture of you with that lady dressed as a mermaid in the pool, we would have thought you were just that drunk. But you actually did get a picture with some lady dressed as a mermaid that weekend.
I did now I have to find it here live on stream.
Oh, please show us.
Let's see.
Brandon, how about you?
I have to say it kind of loops the entire cruise in together, and maybe I'll go into this a little bit more detail like later on, but the Norwegian Bliss coming into pretty much all the ports. I think Puerto Vallarta stood up. Actually, no. Puerto Vallarta and Mazatlan, we didn't get like the water salute coming into Mazatlan, or at least I didn't catch it. But the really cool thing about Mazatlan is like that part of Mexico, the West Coast, is so mountainous that it's all just flat. You know, you really don't get any of that on the Caribbean side. But there's all the mountain regions. Do you have the picture?
I took a picture of a mermaid.
Justin's
I swear I saw a mermaid.
He actually got a picture with a mermaid.
What a day, man! I met a mermaid.
But like,
sorry, continue.
Yeah. So with Mazatlan, it's a very narrow channel too, but like you've got like a really big literally just like a giant rock that's like the size of the ship height wise as you come in, which is kind of interesting in the first place. But it's so mountainous like all around you. It's a little industrial there. But like Mazatlan feels like if you imagine Hollywood, California, but in Mexico, that's essentially what like Mazatlan felt like.
I've never thought about thinking about it like that.
But honestly, like that's kind of the vibe that Mazatlan gives. But actually, I took probably one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken was from there. It was of the Carnival Splendor coming in. It was the ship coming down the channel, you know, the very narrow channel, with that giant rock formation on the side of it. Oh, it was so cool.
Dramatic.
And then, what?
I said dramatic backdrop.
Exactly. If I knew how to do Photoshop back then, I probably would have done a better like blue sky. But it was super cool. So that was super cool. And then just like that entire cruise, we were getting, because it was the first time the Bliss was brand new. Like it was fresh out of the shipyard. Like it was the inaugural Panama Canal cruise. It was the first time in all of these ports. So we got the water salutes coming into just about every port. It was really neat. And then Puerto Vallarta too. It was really funny seeing that one because you're like right in the middle of like a downtown area of a city. So like you got a giant hotel on one side and you got a Walmart behind the ship. Like all the crew members were literally getting off the ship. Yeah, they were getting off the ship and coming back onto the ship like with all the guests, and they had like giant Walmart bags they were bringing back onto the ship. It was super funny to watch.
That's great.
Yeah. And then like just about experience wise, like, or like the favorite, I know Dimitri kind of touched on like the Alaska cruise, but like I guess favorite itinerary or like specific ship itinerary that you've done that's like really stood out, or like I guess a favorite.
Honestly, the 8-night I did on Allure down to Aruba with Coco Cay. It was Coco Cay, Aruba, and Curacao.
Oh, that's so cool. That
was a nice cruise. I know the ship hadn't been updated yet, but just doing it on an Oasis class with 4 sea days, that was a great itinerary. I had a lot of fun, and we went with my whole family. So I mean, you know, come on, our family's crazy.
Yeah, your family is crazy. But like anything more than 7 nights on an Oasis class just sounds so awesome. I mean, it's just an 8. There's one extra day, but like anything more than a 7 days on an Oasis class just sounds so much fun.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, I think for me, it definitely, again, going back to the Bliss, this is why I kind of came up with this, question or topic here. But going back to the Bliss, that was the very first, one of the very first sailings. I think it did like a media cruise up in New York. But then it came down, and like one of the first few revenue sailings for the ship was the 15-night Panama Canal inaugural. So I was like one of the first few people on the ship, for 2 weeks, when the ship was only about 2 weeks old at the time, by the time it even got to, Port Canaveral or Port of Miami. But they hadn't even christened the ship yet, that too. They waited until they got to Seattle to even do like the naming ceremony. So like I was on a ship before it was even like, the christen, they did the champagne bottle and the named. Yeah. So that was really cool in that aspect. And, coming into Cartagena, we got the big water salutes, and the Panama Canal was also something I really wanted to do. Like for as long as I can remember, I always wanted to do the Panama Canal. It's such a cool experience. We were the largest ship at the time, and still, unless you're counting the Encore as being a year newer as being bigger, then it's still the biggest ship to ever go through there. At least that class is. So being on the largest ship to ever go through the canal, and the first time it ever went through the canal, that aspect of it, and then just like the whole experience of actually doing the canal too was just really, really cool. It was like watching paint dry, but it was really cool. Like going through the locks like you literally spent an hour in each of the 3 locks going up, and then another hour in each one going down.
Did you do a time lapse of it or no?
Sort of, yes. So I feel like, and I had this perception of it too, but I feel like a lot of people maybe have the misconception of that the Panama Canal is like just a quick little thing. Like you go up, you go down. It's an all day thing. Like we entered the canal or at least like we approached the locks on the Caribbean side around 6 a.m. We were not out of the Pacific locks until like 10 o'clock that night. It's literally an all day transit. And we still had more to go. Like we still had, another hour or two within the actual, just getting our way out. But, we literally were not out of there until like, 10, 11 midnight almost when we entered. It was like almost an 18-hour journey, really. I know we had to stay a little bit longer just because of the tides, but that was such a cool thing. And there's even parts in there that are more narrow than the Mississippi River, which I know Justin's done that. Though it literally is one-way traffic. And it's mostly cargo ships. There was actually a Holland America ship that we were along with. I think it was I'd have to go back and look, but I think it was the Amsterdam, maybe.
Okay.
It was one of the little ones, but we basically followed them the whole time. They were in Cartagena with us, and then we could actually see them. They were in the other locks, but you can actually see the original locks from the new ones.
Yeah, they're right next to each other.
Right, exactly. So we could kind of see them going through the locks on one side from our ship, and then we just kind of went alongside with them throughout the day. Passing cargo ships at a pretty close distance, going through the lake, and then in like the straits part where it was just really, really narrow. That was super cool.
Yeah.
And then
I would like to do that. I would like to go through the Panama Canal.
I would too.
Exactly. I'd love to do it again. Part of me wants to do it like on a smaller ship to do the original locks, but at the same time, I don't know if I could spend that much time on a ship that's that small.
True.
But
Or do they even use the original locks on smaller ships? I think they just use the bigger ones, even if the ship's not big enough.
Sometimes if the traffic's just that high volume, then yeah, they'll just use them anyways. But yeah, it's super, super cool. And then the funny thing is we went to Guatemala, which Guatemala was a interesting place. I was very excited for that one for some reason.
They stopped there. Or is that Puerto Quetzal or something like that?
Puerto Quetzal or something like that, Guatemala, yeah. It was It was very industrial. There was literally nothing there. It literally just used it looked like a used car parking lot, where the cruise docked. Like there was no terminal. There was nothing. It was just it's just like a giant lot, which it had just rained, so it was a giant muddy lot full of used cars that had just been imported.
Nice.
But so all the buses would just take you into the city. But we did a beach excursion that day, which was really cool because we did it was like one of those black sand beaches, with all like the volcanic ash, I guess. Which was really cool. Like it was like an all-inclusive resort. It was really neat. But it took so long to get there. The funniest thing is that it took over an hour to get out there. The bus driver literally had to pull off on the side of the road and take a leak, get back in, and then continue driving. But then once we got there, like all of us went, like looked over our shoulder, like, was that it? And all of a sudden you just feel the the driver slam on the brakes and you just start backing up on the highway. He's like, oh crap, yeah, you're right. That was it. The guy drove right by it.
Model behavior.
Whoops.
And like the tour group that left 2 buses behind us beat us there. So like we took some wrong turn at some point. We were like, oh my God, no wonder this guy had to, couldn't hold it that much longer. He's like, he didn't know where he was. He's like, I just gotta go, man. I don't know when I'm getting to this place. But that was a very interesting time.
I'm sure.
A very interesting excursion. That's probably one of the most memorable ones for one of the most wild reasons. Other than, of course, the Hideaway Beach where Justin got a picture taken with a mermaid.
That's a hell of an excursion right there.
That is a excursion.
Well worth the money.
What about you, Dimitri? You mentioned Alaska. Is there anything else, or?
Alaska was good. Obviously, there's stuff to do. But like when we were in Europe, I guess this kind of brings a point up. Before you go, you do your research. You kind of find what you want to do. And so we kind of had a bigger group. So we had gotten split up for a couple of our excursions in Europe. And I don't know, I kind of found it interesting that even though we booked them through the ship and whatever, you'd expect the experience to be the same. Our experiences were not the same as even the other people on our party that were on the different tour.
Really?
And either that it sucked, this, that, they got less time here, more time there than we did, but we booked the same thing. So it was just weird. Especially like in the one that stood out was in Pisa, because a lot of people think Florence and like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, they're right next to each other, but like they're an hour apart. So you have to like sometimes, or like we did the tower first, we drove there like an hour and 45 minutes. And then, we got like an hour at the tower, drove an hour to the town, and then, had a couple hours. But then, if you did the reverse, you got like gypped in the first part and, longer here. Like it was very weird. And, people were saying, the tour people sucked. And I don't know. It was just very interesting to see that. Even though you booked the same thing, some people had a good time and some people, it sucked.
Yeah. That's kind of like going to, Rome. You don't actually dock in Rome. You dock in...
No, right. And it's like an hour or so drive. And like you look on Google Maps, and like even in Florence, you drive halfway across Italy, the whole country of Italy, just to get to Pisa. And we're like, we just drove an hour and a half, and we're halfway through the country. No wonder people in Europe go to all these different countries. It's like going from here to Disney World.
Yeah,
I love Disney World.
I always love those, like the people that from Europe, they're like, oh, Americans aren't very well traveled. They've never been to other countries, or they rarely go to other countries. And we're like, yeah, the state of Texas is the size of like going from Russia all the way to like Germany or something like that. Or even more. Like I don't even know, but like the state of Texas takes like 16 hours to get through, and if one specific road, it's crazy.
UK is as big as Florida. Like that's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Do you imagine a European Floridian? Scary.
That would be scary.
Yeah, it would be kind of scary. Us Floridians are a little on the weird side.
Yes.
But yeah, it is crazy just to kind of like put it in perspective of like the U.S. is just massive compared to some of this. Like Florida, I mean, it takes me a 4-hour train ride to get to Miami from Orlando. 4 hours you can end up on the other side of Europe almost.
For
You
real.
can pass through like 5 countries in that amount of time, and I'm on like like one of the fastest trains in the U.S.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
it's different over here. It's like you said, you drive 30 minutes in Europe and you're in a different country. You drive 30 minutes and you're in the same town,
Yeah, it takes me
So,
more than 30 minutes to get to Disney World,
right,
and it's
exactly.
right down the street.
Right, yeah.
And the other
Yeah.
thing is that, I mean, granted here, how many times are you going to go to Cozumel, St. Thomas, and
Yeah.
Nassau? And the other thing is, we just came off of Wonder, and, obviously I know people travel to go on these cruises, but, there were a lot of international people, and we were like, you came all the way from Ireland to go on this trip?
They
And
probably
we
say
were
the same
like,
thing about us when we go over on our cruises, like internationally.
exactly. But I just think
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's how it is.
I remember there was one. I don't remember what cruise it was, but like there was like some. I think they were from maybe it was either somewhere in Europe or maybe it was even Australia, but it was like a 3-night cruise, and they were like, oh yeah, we're from like Australia or something like that, and you're on a 3-night cruise to the Bahamas out of
That's
Port Canaveral. Like, what are you doing? Like, cool, but like, why'd you come all the way out here for
Yeah.
this? Like,
That's crazy.
great idea, but I don't know why
Maybe
you
it's
came all the way
just
out here for
things out of
this.
their itinerary,
Yeah, exactly.
hopefully.
Yeah, I guess if it was a Disney cruise, I could picture it because that's
Probably
you can
10
use.
grand for people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
been a couple days at the
If you're
park with
staying at
that.
Disney World too, yeah.
um, yeah, actually, another thing, like any like significant. I know it always weather comes up in like topics of conversation, but like, you guys ever been through like any like crazy storms or anything like that?
Yes. I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
I know
Justin,
we got Mr.
have
Weather
one.
Boy over here.
I'm glad you asked. When we were on the Carnival Destiny for Memorial
Ooh.
Weekend in 2012, I think. I'm like 99% sure, and I wasn't really. I mean, I just don't remember much because I'm so stupid. But we were with the family. We were with my cousins, and we were with my mom's parents. And it was just out of Miami, like a Thursday to Monday, Key West, Cozumel, Sea Day back.
I
And
love
on the
that
way back,
itinerary.
it was great. We were in Key West, and I think we left at like 3, and then we got into Cozumel at like 1 p.m. and stayed until like 10 or whatever it was.
I
So
did that on
on the-
Victory twice.
Yeah, so we did it on Destiny, and on the way back from Cozumel to Miami, we went on like the southern end of some kind of, I don't know if it was like a tropical storm at the time or if it was like kind of in the process of, it was like some kind of low pressure system going up into the Gulf of Mexico, and we were on the south side of it, so we got like, I don't remember how the weather was, but we had big waves that night. I mean, we were in this is when we were cheaping it out because we were with the whole family, but we were in like small, like in like window cabins, we were in little window cabins, and the waves were crashing over the windows. Like, you ever see those videos?
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
that was, yeah. And my brother freaked out. Like, the ship was literally rolling like this. It was, and I had 102 fever on that cruise that night. So I'm in my bed dying, and the ship was rolling. Dude, it was so bad. I had like 102 fever the last day and a half of that cruise.
Jeez.
Yeah,
That's
probably
insane.
COVID in 2012, but
Back in 2012, yeah.
I'm patient zero. But yeah, so we went through some kind of system, and the ship was taking a beating on the way back to Miami.
I always, when you mentioned the waves crashing over the window, I always think of the anthem that one time.
Yeah, bro.
When she first came out, she actually got some pretty decent damage done to her too. Like, that was a crazy system she went through.
Yeah, I'd rather
I
do it
don't
on
know
the
why they chose to just sail right through it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it was one of those like bomb cyclone type of things where it just blew
Yeah, I
up out
don't.
of nowhere. I don't
Right. I
remember
don't think
all
they
of
were
it about that
expecting it.
system, but
I don't
yeah,
think they were expecting it to be that bad, and then it, like you said, it kind of exploded out where they were. So that's what they say, but who knows?
yeah, who knows? But yeah, that was always crazy. I don't really remember it, but one time, or I guess when I was on the Century, Celebrity Century, which is actually my first cruise, I was yay big to where I don't really remember it. But apparently we were being chased by a hurricane basically all the way back to Fort Lauderdale that weekend. So,
Very nice.
and that was a pretty small ship at the time too. So we were going through it. But from one I do remember is we were on the Carnival Legend, going back into Tampa, and this was Thanksgiving week, so it really wasn't hurricane season, or at least that time of year is really rare for a hurricane. So I don't think that's what it was or anything like that because there was nothing when we got to Tampa. Um, but like that whole last day of the cruise going through the Gulf, trying to get back to Tampa, it was just it started out just kind of like a windy morning. Like they kind of closed off all the decks, and then like throughout the day, just kind of like conditions just got worse and worse and worse. And then like by the end of the night, like the waves were so bad. Like even some of the crew members were like getting seasick. I remember one of my waiters at dinner disappeared for like a half an hour, and we were like, "What happened to our food?" And our waiter came back with a bandage across his head, and then he was like, "Hi, here's your chicken nuggets, sir." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh
Like,
my god!
He was
like, are
going
you
through
okay?
it.
Like, thank you for the
Brandon's
chicken nuggets.
fault.
We're like, bro, are you all right? You got a pretty hefty bandage. Is that Dora Explorer on that? Like,
He comes back all bruised up, broken arm. Dude, what happened?
yeah, well, that's
He was doing it for the tip.
we're like,
Yeah.
man, where's the waiter? Like, we were just kind of like curious at that point. Like, it had been so long. Usually they at least check up on us, but we were like, oh my god, like you came back, you bro was beat up. But
That's
that
horrible.
was like one of the first. That was like one of the only times I've ever really like gotten close to being seasick. I didn't, which is good, but like that, it was just that bad. Like if I pretty much just like had to just keep walking around the ship in order, like if I stayed still, like it would get to me. But that was like one of probably the worst conditions I've ever been in on a ship. It was pretty bad, especially on a ship like Legend.
Yeah, that was probably pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What about you, Dimitri?
I mean, also from Tampa, we did it was a 5 day on Jewel of the Seas.
It's gotta be
Wow.
for some reason.
Maya, Grand Cayman, and Cozumel. We had to miss Grand Cayman because we had to head back to Tampa like early because of some storm, a tropical storm or something. We were getting battered, just like you said, Justin. We were down on like deck 2 and the porthole window, and it was under the water.
Yeah, I was seeing the fishes.
That's crazy. Remember one? It's actually the complete opposite. It was Freedom of the Seas the first time I sailed on it. It was the weirdest experience because it was like very foggy and hazy out. Like visibility was like 0, but there was not a single ripple in the water. Like it looked literally like a sheet of glass. That was the spookiest thing ever. Because like yeah, not a single wave, nothing, just smooth as glass on the water, and it was just very hazy and foggy. And we're like,
That is
going
kinda
to
creepy.
die? We're like, are we in like the bad part of the Bermuda Triangle or something? Like what's going on?
Of course.
It was very interesting. That was a crazy cruise in the first place because literally that was at the time on that cruise at least it was the world's largest ship, and really as we were leaving Miami, not as we were, but like that first night coming out of Miami, somebody jumped. So like we ended up having to miss St. Thomas, which sucked. But like the whole first day, we were searching for somebody. Like you could even when it got dark, we had like the spotlight out. You could see the spotlight like going around in the water, which is kind of cool. But like the whole first day, like there was like yeah, like there was like 2 princess ships around us, and they were pretty close by. Like they stayed with us like the whole day, and we just like circled like a general area. It was really weird. Like they just paged the guy all day. Clearly he wasn't on board, but
I was
we
gonna
also
say who
we
they're
also
looking
never found
for.
them. Yeah. It was definitely one of the weirdest things that have ever happened on a cruise. But yeah, we spent the whole first day just, there's a couple ships nearby. We pretty much just stayed in like one spot looking for the guy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, never found him.
Usually don't.
Right. Some of these stories I hear of like them actually finding the guy and he's like okay. It's like oh my
So
god.
crazy.
How did you like
How did
even recovering somebody after they fall off is pretty rare, but like sometimes like they're completely fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably one of the more that whole cruise was like so weird just because of that we had that weird like weather thing going on with the water and the fog and everything. Having to miss St. Thomas. So we went to St. Martin and we did like a little Jeep excursion, which was kind of cool, but it was nothing special. But then we went to San Juan and everything like that. Overall, it was a really great cruise. It was just very interesting.
Seems like it.
Yeah. Any cruises like that for you guys, or like not to that extent, but like any just like weird, like oddball, like experience cruises?
I've got a good one.
Oh,
Let it
boy.
rip. Oh boy.
I think you guys
Say
already
Wonder
know
of
what
the
it is.
Seas.
No, not Wonder of the Seas.
We just reviewed this last week.
Yeah, it's changing by the minute.
It should be fresh in your mind. Come on.
Oh, I know
Um,
exactly what you're gonna say.
Yeah. Port Miami
hear it.
closed and we couldn't board Seascape until 11
yeah.
p.m.
Brutal.
For those who
Yeah,
don't
and
know, there's Fisher Island that's like the big like giant condos that are on the one side, not the South Point Beach side of Miami, but like that little island. There's a bunch of like giant condos, which I've heard that's like the richest zip code in the entire country. I could be wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised. But there's like a little ferry that will take the cars, for the citizen, like for the residents of that like little area. They'll ferry them over to the island whenever they go out. Well, somebody hit that with a boat, to my knowledge, or what was it, like a yacht? Or
Yeah,
something that crashed into the ferry.
Yeah, they were drunk and you could see them on the camera, on the port camera. They just went straight down the channel and then just never stopped and hit the ferry. And then that boat sank.
In the middle of the channel, of all things, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
How
the
many
ships could have
were in
come
that
in.
day.
There were only 3. It was us,
Really?
Escape, and Celebration.
Interesting. That's actually not that bad.
And no, it wasn't. It could have been a lot worse. The ships, they ended up docking around, I think it was like 2 p.m.
Dang.
All the other ships left before us. At 11.
SC fashion.
Yeah, at 11, Carnival had already left, and then the moment we got on the ship, we like got a drink at the bar, and then we walked the promenade like right outside, and then Escape was leaving. We didn't leave until 3:00 in the morning.
Oh my god.
Crazy.
So our itinerary got flipped. So instead of going Sea Day, Puerto Plata, San Juan, and Ocean Cay and Nassau, it was Ocean Cay, Nassau, Sea Day, and then the other ones.
Okay, so you didn't have to miss any stops, though, I guess, in that case, right?
No, we didn't. They just flipped it on us, which
good.
kind of sucked because we were supposed to be with some good ships and stuff. But it was fine. I mean, like I said, as long as we didn't miss any stops, it was good. But
I guess that's the unique part about some of these, private islands at the beginning or end. If you have something like that happens, you don't really miss out on too much because it's not very far. Where you kind of make time
exactly.
that day, the next day. Yeah, that's crazy though. When did you get on the ship?
it was 11 p.m.
Oh my god,
That's
We were
wild.
so
that's insane.
we were with somebody who it was their first cruise. He, let's say, will not want to go on a cruise again. Also paired with the
Understandable, but
MSC
that sucks.
Yeah. We were in the terminal. So I obviously woke up and I didn't see the shipping port. I was like, oh my God. Then obviously,
I would have panicked too. I couldn't even imagine.
Because I was sleeping on the floor because we stayed at his uncle's house. And I was like sleeping on the floor in like a beanbag. We all were because it was a pretty small house in like downtown Miami. And I would look at my phone like, why are the ships not in port? And they're like, what are you talking about? Then I flip around my phone, and then they're like, oh, okay, so we'll just kind of see what happened. Because then there was nothing on the news yet. Like nobody, like they couldn't find any information. Mm-hmm. Things start coming out, and then MSC started texting us, blah blah blah, and we were like, well, what should we do? So we went bowling.
That was a great embarkation day if I've ever heard one. Oh, the ship hasn't shown up. Let's go bowling.
Let's go bowling. So then we woke up, ate breakfast, and then we went bowling. And then it was like around noon, and we were like, I can only imagine the lines at the port. Like, you know what I mean? So we headed for the terminal, and then mind you, it's pouring rain all day, like thunderstorming, and then that delayed, them getting the boat out of the bottom of the channel or whatever. So, and I mean, just in Miami in general, how they are like set up where like you drop off your bags, but then it's like not covered, Mm-hmm. It was like, and then we weren't using obviously MSC's new terminal. We were using, I don't know what letter or number it is, but the one behind the Norwegian one in front of it.
See?
And it was just a mess.
Yeah.
And as soon as we walked up, we gave the bags, it's pouring rain. And they're like handing people numbers so that you can go stand in line. And the line was the whole length of the terminal. And the guy like kind of turned, and I saw like a gap to go inside the terminal. And I was like, guys, hold on. So I literally grabbed him and I just ran inside the terminal. And
that is exactly what they told you not to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And people were like yelling and like screaming and stuff, and I just kept going. So then at least we were in the air conditioning for the rest of the day.
You're a menace.
But we sat crisscross applesauce right before security because they had already filled up the whole terminal on the inside. So we sat crisscross applesauce on the floor for about 10 hours. No food. They didn't hand us any food. They only handed us water at probably like 8 o'clock. Because they couldn't. I remember
like seeing that, like NCL had like Papa John's pizza, like throughout the whole terminal. I was like, I'm surprised.
Food and stuff.
Yeah,
but
crazy.
Yeah, it was just a mess because they couldn't let people on until people got off, and it was just a mess.
That's insane. I couldn't even imagine.
Yep.
I'm sure there's nothing that tops that. But what about you, Justin?
I was gonna say
that's hard to follow up.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think I've ever really had anything crazy like that. Yeah, I don't really. I mean, the only thing maybe close, like it wasn't affected by. I think our itinerary was affected. Mm-hmm. When we were on the Carnival Triumph in 2004, we got off the same day. I think it was the same day that Hurricane Charlie made landfall on the west coast of Florida. I don't know why that's significant. It's not. We weren't affected by it, but I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, we haven't really had anything crazy like that. Most of our cruises have been pretty normal.
Lucky.
Thanks.
Please don't jinx it.
Yeah, something's gonna happen now.
The
The
one
Glory,
thing
there's going to be like a Cat 5 hurricane coming ashore.
that's the one I know we have so many cruises booked for September because that's the cheapest time of the year to go. But that's like the one thing I am actually worried about is I know that's the most active time of the year. So hopefully it's
This year we should be okay because we're just doing the one.
yeah.
And you're
Next
going
year
on
we have
Utopia
literally
next
yeah.
week, and it's not. There's nothing out there. But next year I'm worried because we've got like 4 within like September and October. That's like the busiest time, especially October in the Caribbean.
3 cruises in 6 weeks.
Yeah, we're out of our
It's going
minds.
it's going to suck.
Yeah,
It's actually going to be really awesome, but I'm saying it's going to suck on the wallet.
yeah, big
I'm
time.
very much looking forward to that though, because we're going on Star. I think Brady's actually the sailing before us on Star.
Really?
That's
That's
he had mentioned it at one point. Yeah, Dimitri,
we're
you need to
going
go
on-
with us.
We're going on Glory, Star, and Freedom in some
Yeah.
order, right?
Glory is like the first week of September, then like the third week of September we go on Star, and like the second week of October we're on the Freedom.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So it sounds like we're gonna have a lot of additional stories to tell over the next several months and several years going forward. But
Yes.
Lots
Stay
of-
tuned.
I think this was kind of fun, just like sharing just like random stories and stuff like that about
Yeah, I've got
cruises that
more.
we've been on.
Save it
Oh,
for
yeah.
next time.
Oh yeah, for sure. 'Cause we're coming up on time anyways. So yeah, I think we might do these like periodically. That way we can kind of space them out, and it's just kind of fun just like sharing stories and stuff like that of like experiences that we've had. Because
Sure.
there's definitely things that you don't see in the videos. There's also things that you do see in the videos sometimes, or stuff that was pre-video era or vlogging eras. So it's cool to kind of share stuff like this. But I hope you guys enjoyed this week and this new topic. We'll definitely again do more in the future periodically. But with that, thank you all for listening, watching, wherever you may be, whatever platform it is. And we'll see you guys next week for another one. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys.